and it's actually a two-part thing. I believe that under the mind control issue, that the Illuminati believe that they are losing control, and therefore they are going to instigate very soon a war with Israel to get rid of Israel, to get rid of the Muslim world, the radicals, to deal a head blow to the USA, because we're not going to point blankly allow ourselves to be incorporated into this world order. And so we have to be brought down the ladder, and then they're going to raise us all back up again, and with great strength in this land. And also, I believe that they're going to that the Antichrist will come upon the scene after this with his wonders and his power and his peace initiatives, and that they are going to hold Russia down to keep her from getting any stronger, and eventually they will go after the Orient too to get them to meld into everything. And now, once that they've achieved certain goals, I don't think they're going to need all the doormats that they consider us to be, and they will throw the majority of them into the fire and leave millions instead of billions. Now, that's how I see this playing out, and I've been shown several things over the past 3 months that make me to see it this way. Now, concerning the Antichrist, I wanted to ask if your guest has ever heard of Javier Solana, because he meets a lot of the requirements, and if a person would go to YouTube and type up, sorry, you missed the rapture, you can see all about him and see what the requirements are. But this man is the head of the EU. He is a guy that's going around in the Middle East right now with peace initiatives, and he just has a great big agenda, and it shows that he is he's a Roman Catholic. He's a part of a group that wants one language for many tongues.
So you think he's the Antichrist, huh?
Absolutely, yeah. And if you go there and look under this name, Javier Solana, starts to spell that with a J, Javier.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's...
You go there and you
quoted.
type up in YouTube, sorry you missed the rapture, and you'll see all about him.
Stuart, what do you think of this individual?
Well, I know who he's referring to, and, as I've mentioned before on the show, it's not just one group that's part of the Illuminati. There are 13 families who basically have the world divvied up under various control. And what we're seeing right now is a battle between the Windsors, the Rothschilds, and the Romanovs now for total domination of the Illuminati system. Russia must be looked at. I think your caller is correct in that perspective, because the Soviet Union is being reconstituted. I do have connections to what is called the former KGB, but I know that it still exists. And KGB people have told me that the Soviet Union is coming back. It won't be under the same format as it was previously, but it will be a totalitarian dictatorship. And that's what we're seeing happening now. Russia is now sending their bombers off our coasts again, which hasn't happened for so long. And we're seeing Russia involvement in Iran and Syria and other countries, just like it was during the Cold War. So what we're seeing now is that in the end battle for global domination, there's a factor coming in where, when you put a bunch of reptiles in a pit, they don't help each other get out. They fight to kill each other, so there's one survivor. And that's what we're seeing with the Illuminati families. They're fighting now for control of the head, which is called the Pindar, right now controlled by the Rothschild family, but certainly the Windsors, who control the U.S. and Britain, and the Romanovs, who control Russia and the Soviet Union countries. These people are trying to gain control. And unfortunately, it's a two-sided issue here, because on one hand, their battles between each other provide cracks in the system that we could widen and win for ourselves. On the other hand, though, we get caught in the middle between all the battling and the wars and the violence that they create. So we have to be very careful in the choices that we make, and we have to be careful in what we're hearing in the media, and how we apply it in our lives. And that's why I say, despite what's going on out there, work within yourself, within your own mind. Because, yes, the agenda for this planet is not a pleasant one. Something will be played out. I agree that the Illuminati are afraid. I think there's other factors involved. The that go beyond this planet. But yes, they're fearful about something. They're speeding up the agenda. They're making mistakes, and they're battling each other. And we can use that battle for our own selves in order to gain control of our own minds.
Okay, we're going to be back in just a moment. We're going to continue with final phone calls with our special guest tonight, Stuart Swartlow on Coast to Coast AM. Stuart, at what point did you begin to realize that this was happening at a very rapid clip?
Well, of course, I knew something was going on from childhood. You know, my father was involved in the U.S. military when I was very young. And, of course, you know about my family history. So I was always politically involved, and I always knew what the agenda was for the earth. The problem was, of course, getting the right words to tell people about it. But I think it was basically towards the end of the Montauk Project, which, again, ended in 1983. That's when it was like being unplugged. When that situation ended, it was like being disconnected from the source of life, if you will, because I was so used to being heavily programmed and doing everything that I was told to do. And then when it suddenly ended, it was like I was thrust out into the world and had no idea how to deal with it. So I really had to train myself and teach myself how to function. And, of course, there were government people who tried to deprogram me, but they did it in such a way that left me very weak physically and emotionally, because they just tried to drain everything out of me under the assumption that I was not going to survive and they needed whatever information was in me. So it was then I realized how people are used and abused by the control system. And it really angered me, and especially looking at my children and seeing how they were also suffering sometimes at night and having nightmares and things come to them in the middle of the night, which they told me about, which I, by the way, never discussed with them, so that they never heard that from me. That came from them. And they, had a very sheltered life at the time. They didn't know what was going on in the outside world. So the only way they could have known about it was through personal experience. And that angered me, knowing that what I went through and then my children were going through, how dare these people do that to not only me but anybody. So I became very adamant about going out into the world and telling people about it. Of course, I get a lot of rotten apples and tomatoes thrown at me by people who don't want to hear about those things. But my feeling is, at least I'm going to say what I know. It's not my job to convince anybody of anything. I simply state what I know, and the rest of the world can accept or reject as they see fit. However, I do see what's going on. I know what's going on, and time is getting very critical. We're reaching a point now where there's not much time to play around and decide whether you believe it or not, because here it is. It's happening right in front of us. So I would urge all listeners and readers of my site and my books to really do their own work. Despite what I say, don't listen to me if you don't want to. Do your own work. Do your own research. Find out for yourself, and you will see what's going on out there, and you will be fascinated by what's going on in your own mind.
Wildcard Line, you're up with us on Coast to Coast. Thanks for holding so long.
Yes, sir, no problem. Good evening.
Sure.
I have in the late 70s, early 80s, there was an article in Omni magazine about an ELF or ULF radio station in Russia transmitting a blank carrier beam. There was no modulation, nothing piggybacked on it. It was going on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It had gotten to the point, according to the article, that any of the major legislative bodies in Europe, and the article mentioned Sweden and Germany, before the members took a vote on any critical issue, they turned on a personal jammer that was tuned to block this frequency. Now, ELF and ULF, they go through the earth, so everybody on earth was being, whether they knew it or not, was hearing this continuous tone, and it never changed. It was the same thing over and over. My question is, would that be part of a programming thing? Because anything could be piggybacked onto it, a trigger at any time. And are you familiar with that, Mr. Stewart? And is that still going on? Do you know? And I'll take my answer off the air. Thank you.